The government's jeepney modernization program is a confusing and controversial topic. Do transport groups support the program? Will it succeed? The latest news on the topic is the announcement of an agreement for the delivery of 3,000 modern jeepneys in 3 months.
For many years now, the government, through the Department of Transportation and its line agencies, the Land Transport Franchising and Regulatory Board and the Land Transportation Office, has been working to implement a program to modernize the land transportation sector. The aim is primarily to phase out old and dilapidated public utility vehicles, in particularly a provision of what is now known as the PUV modernization, is the ban on the use of vehicles 15 years and older for public transport. However, the program has been hampered by oppositions from various transport groups, particularly from the jeepney sector, which claims the modernization program will result in the loss of livelihood for thousands of its members. For many years, the government has been bending over backwards in the face of opposition of transport groups, which hold transport strikes or the so-called transport holidays and leave cities and towns paralyzed for lack of transportation. Deadline after deadline for compliance with the regulations meant to rid the streets of PUVs 15 years old or older were pushed back. Meanwhile, government began looking for ways to help transport groups and their members to replace their aging units with new ones. And lately, some transport groups have begun cooperating with authorities, paving the way for agreements among the DOTR, the LTFRB, and LTO. Government financial institutions and vehicle manufacturers that aim to finally see more and more modern, safe, environment-friendly public transport on the road. The DOTR has announced that 19 transportation groups have signed deals with vehicle manufacturers EcoJeep Incorporated and MCCI Connection Transport Services Corporation that would facilitate the replacement of old units with brand new ones. Chief among these transport groups that are cooperating with the government's PUV modernization program are the Alliance of Transport Operators and Drivers Association of the Philippines and the Federation of Jeepney Operators and Drivers Association of the Philippines. The DOTR said that these deals will result in some 3,000 brand new jeepneys to serve as PUVs in the next 3 months. Transport authorities appear optimistic that this will be a start of the eventual modernization of the jeepney transport sector. Meanwhile, the LTO and the LTFRB are doing its share to help encourage the entry of more and more new and modern jeepney units on the road. The LTFRB said it was facilitating the process of establishing new routes in various local areas and the issuance of new jeepney transport franchises. This is part of reforms being undertaken by the agency as part of the new omnibus franchising guidelines that aims to implement new jeepney vehicle standards, rationalize routes, and assist in a proposed old vehicle replacement program. The LTO meanwhile reiterated that it is also fast-tracking the issuance of new license plates for the new vehicles, including the jeepneys coming into service as PUVs. This latest development in the jeepney modernization is seen as a direct result of the government's multifaceted program to rid the country of unsafe and hazardous public transport vehicles. Under this program, the Department of Trade and Industry is tasked to provide vehicle manufacturers with incentives to help refleeting initiatives of transport operators as part of the government's comprehensive automotive resurgence strategy program. Meanwhile, the Department of Finance is tasked to complement efforts to implement a financing program for public transport operators, including the jeepney sector, seeking to modernize their fleets. Amidst this welcome development in the government's program to modernize the jeepney transport sector, the Pinagkaisahang Samahang ng mga Tsoper at Operators Nationwide or PISTON continues to oppose what they perceive to be a total phase-out of jeepneys, announcing more plans to hold transport strikes. However, other transport groups react to the PISTON call for the transport strike can be an indication of whether the government's PUV modernization program is finally gaining momentum in the jeepney sector.
We have seen and heard government and even transport groups reiterating support for the program aimed at modernizing the jeepney transport sector, only for hopes to be dashed by more rounds of protests from opposing groups. This latest news can either be met with optimism or pessimism. We are opting for optimism that the program will finally lead to better, cleaner, safer, and more efficient jeepney public transport. This week's topic on Motoring Today's Motoring Forum, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.